We are live! Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Show Must Go On line. Today's guest is Abe Goldfarb. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so much better now that I'm speaking with you, Shoshana.
You are so lovely. Thank you. The feelings are mutual. There are some people who you just have this feeling like, oh, this is going to be fun. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be fun.
I will try not to suck at being interviewed. I'll do my best.
Success.
Yes, success.
Get ready for the Beetlejuice, all of it, because
I'm ready. I'm so ready.
I love the show. I saw it 3 times on Broadway.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Including on Halloween.
You were there when like 80% of the audience was in costume. Oh, Haley St. James, what's up? There in the comments.
Big fan of Haley.
Oh yeah, same. Great, terrific writer, and a huge fan of Coldplay.
If you want to hear about Coldplay, go follow Haley St. James.
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. And on that note, we see all of your comments. Hello, Judy. Hello, Amanda. Big shout out. If you have questions, just comment below. We will get to them throughout the interview. We'll kind of just sprinkle them in, if you will. And it's always so fun to see all of your faces and names. Faces and names.
Yeah. But so you saw the show 3 times, including Halloween.
Beetlejuice.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, it's it's funny because Beetlejuice was one of those shows where it's like, oh, well, I to this day have never seen the movie.
Really?
Is that weird?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, it depends on the generation. I mean, for people my age, I'm 41.
Okay.
And so for people my age, it's generally just one of those things that you've seen. But definitely one of the coolest things about the show, which I just love. Like, it's just I love the show. One of the coolest things about it is that it has become the sort of canonical, definitive Beetlejuice to a certain segment of the population,
Yes.
which is very humbling to be a part of that legacy. I mean,
that is amazing. It's really fun to hear and see like all the fans and see how the ages range, because a lot of shows, I guess this is what I was thinking, like you have maybe like this target demographic or this, but you've got like the younger generation who only know of it as the musical, probably through TikTok, which is crazy.
Yes. I'll tell you something. I started noticing it a couple months after we opened, because TikTok didn't really explode until really like the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like June or July. I'm pretty sure after the Tony's performance.
Okay, that makes sense.
I believe the Tony's performance went viral, and that was rad. But what really, and I was the mopping football player in the Tony's performance in the bowels of Radio City. But I remember that TikTok started throwing up all of these lip syncs. And one of our producers, Mark Kaufman, who works with Warner Brothers Theatrical, I remember mentioning it to him.
Yeah.
Because he would hang out in the theater because he was as big a fan as any of us. And I was like, man, have you started paying attention to this thing, TikTok? And he was like, oh yeah, we're going to do like a partnership with them or something. And I was like, good, because all the fans are there. They're all on there. It's astounding.
That's amazing to hear that the connection was there, which doesn't always happen, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of time the young fans, and they're like, this is what we want. And then the producers or director or, whoever might be calling the shots at that moment, they're like, that's cool, but this is what we're doing.
Right. No, there was always a sense of, well, I think I know for a fact Warner Brothers developed the show because it was a huge hit movie and it's like iconic.
Yes.
So it's intellectual property that enough people would know about that you could get, asses in seats right off the bat. But then you have like a whole job after you've got the first bunch of asses in seats, which is how do you convince people that this is a worthwhile take, especially when tickets cost what they cost on Broadway?
Right.
And it was a long road to figuring out A, what the show was at its core, and B, who the audience was. And things really clarified down in Washington, D.C., and during our previews in New York, and then clarified even further when the kids took over. I mean, the kids are amazing to me. These are the kids who totally trolled, Trump's rally in Tulsa. The TikTok generation is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I love them.
I love them so much. Yes. I love everything about them. That they've really taken like the political stance and their own take on so many things, and they're like, I'm not going to be told what to say. And I love
totally.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. These are the people who are going to save us.
Yes, I agree. And okay, also, just as a heads up, y'all, I see your comments, as I mentioned. Also, I see them better with my glasses, which make a circle in this ring light. So I'm going to take them off for most of the interview, but get to them with the interview later. So just in case if you see me going like this, like a grandma, I have astigmatism and can kind of read.
Oh, me too. We have so much in common.
So much. So let's just start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. And what's your origin story? What got you into theater?
Oh, well, gosh. I grew up on Long Island in Port Washington on the North Shore, which I hated. And I got... As soon as I was out of junior high, I was out of Port Washington. I went to high school on a farm in Vermont, a place called the Putney School.
Wow.
And I was part of this effort to renovate a barn that was sort of a derelict barn and turn it into the theater for the school. Because, they were using like the assembly hall, stuff like that. And yeah, this barn got turned around and fixed up, and it became the theater. Now they have like a really expensive, gorgeous, sort of theaterplex at the Putney School. But this was the first step. And in high school, I was, a theater nerd. And I knew that I wanted to do theater. I was less interested in film. I was much more interested in theater. And, my parents were big stage people. My dad, he claimed that he was a bad actor, but I never saw evidence. So I can't begin to say. But he was delighted that I was getting into it. And I wound up auditioning for theater schools in the UK. I got into Marymount Manhattan for a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I was also going to study religious psychology. And then, while I was in the run-up to the school year starting, I just, for the shits of it, went to the UK and auditioned for, I think it was RADA, Lambda, Central, and the Bristol Old Vic. And I didn't expect much. Like, I think I got a call back at RADA, and then I got a call back at the Old Vic, and then I heard nothing. And my first day of classes at Marymount Manhattan, I got a piece of paper on my desk which said, "Call mother, urgent family business, not death." So,
good disclaimer.
Thanks, I was honestly great. That's terrific, because I'm very neurotic. And so just having like PS, not death. So yeah, this was September 1997. And I called my mom and she said, "Are you sitting down? You're in the Old Vic." And the Old Vic did a 3-year program that took 13 kids. And so I did this super intensive 3-year study where it was like 8:45 to 7, 5 days a week, and built up a powerful tolerance for alcohol and clubbing. And fell in love with a Welsh lass for a minute. And yeah, that was sort of, the Old Vic was the best education I could possibly have asked for. It was just total immersion, hard work, really hard work. I've actually never had to work harder than I did at the Old Vic, probably until Beetlejuice. But it was good. It put me in good stead. The first day at the first dance class, we had this dance teacher named Gail Gordon, who is an incredible person. This hard drinking Northerner who she was a contortionist with the circus, which is completely unfair in terms of like teaching a bunch of little dinglings how to dance.
Yeah.
And the first day she had us go down into a squat for a half hour. Like, I mean, take a half hour going down into a squat. It was the most. But yeah, I mean, it's like a military experience. But yeah, the first year was all classes, and then the second year was touring shows. We did the Nativity. I was Joseph, the one Jew in the cast.
Hey, go Jews!
See, right? We did the Nativity. We did, unfortunately, Hiawatha, which starring a bunch of pasty Caucasians was. I'm going to say hashtag problematic.
Fair.
And then we did Charles Dickens' Hard Times,
Nice.
which was a 3-hour-long adaptation where we all had heavy makeup, and also we were basically the crew. We had a 2-ton set that we had to move around. We had like, I think 30 lights we had to install, and that was the real boot camp. So that by the time you got to year 3, when you were just doing in-house productions, it was actually like a holiday. Because you're just like, oh, I can just get up and walk to the theater.
Right.
Like, that's fine. Instead of touring around the southwest of England on like 3 hours of sleep for 6 weeks. It was really intense. I loved it.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Hilarious and hard, but amazing.
Very. Yeah, and then I came back to New York and had no success through my 20s. As an actor. So that was cool. I love that for me.
I love that journey for you.
Yes. But yeah, after a few years of really just big nothing, I did a really shitty production of a not so great play, and a friend of one of the cast members came out to our closing night party and told me exactly how terrible the show was. And I had to agree. And we basically just shot the shit, and talked a little, and I got very, very drunk, and I sang Fix You by Coldplay.
It always comes back to Coldplay.
It always comes back to Coldplay. And the friend of the cast member was like, you know, you can sing. And I was like, I know. And it was the worst. And he said, listen, I'm a burlesque host. I host burlesque shows, and I'm doing a thing where I'm running for burlesque mayor. And I feel like this character should have like an embarrassing relative who fucks up their mayoral run. And so this guy was Johnny Porkpie, who's a sweetheart and a dear friend. And I was Keith Porkpie, his bastard half cousin. And so I started doing guest appearances in these burlesque shows. And then I started getting asked to host shows on my own. And I was like, I can't be Keith Porkpie because he's Johnny Porkpie. And I was like, okay, Bastard Keith. That's my character name. And so I've been hosting burlesque shows as Bastard Keith now since 2006.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's actually led to pretty much everything career-wise. Like, I've gotten into a lot of rooms where me being a downtown scuzzball art kid is very valuable. It turns out to be a terrific hook. You know.
That just goes to show, you know, people talk about like, oh, this journey, or I'm supposed to do that, or, oh, we have to go specifically like ABC. But no, because when you try to play by the rules and just do what you're quote unquote supposed to do, that's not.
You're not supposed to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've just got to make stuff, you know?
Yes.
I mean, I wound up pulling a decent paycheck as a burlesque host eventually, you know? And I got to work with people who were amazing. I got to travel the world. It took me over to Vancouver. It took me to Helsinki, you know? And I mean, I did a month run in a cirque show, like a bizarre adult cirque show over in Helsinki. They put me up in an apartment and like paid me to do a job. Like, it was astounding. And I do cartoon voices as well. I'm on Pokémon, or rather I was. My characters have come to the end of their run. And they're moving, I think the recording's out to LA. But the reason that I got in the room for that was because one of the producers of Pokémon was a huge fan of burlesque and enjoyed my work and was like, listen, do you want to have an audition? You know? And so yeah, cool. Tell me if I'm babbling. You have questions. I'm like, but yeah.
This is perfect. This is exactly what we want. Yes.
Great. And also it was very much the foundation of what I brought into the room for the Beetlejuice audition.
So how did you hear about that? And then like, what was that process like?
Okay. Well, I have a wonderful manager, Naomi Kolstein, who's with Bohemia Group. And she, you know, I was really burned out on musical theater. Like, I was just not having fun. And I was starting, my work was really becoming more acting in commercials and doing voiceovers and doing burlesque. And I didn't book the workshop. I got called in to audition for the workshop. And then I got called in to audition for the DC tryout. And I was like, man, I don't know. I just feel like I'm done. Like, it's just not fun anymore. And Naomi was like, you're doing it. You're doing this audition. So I went and I read the materials and I was like, oh, this is burlesque hosting. Like, Beetlejuice is an MC.
Yes.
And there's a kind of funny that's Broadway funny. And that's not the kind of funny that I necessarily go for. I think there's, you know, and that's not to insult it. It's just not my sensibility.
Totally.
But there is a kind of funny on Broadway that's, I think, quite safe because, you know, you have to appeal to a very broad number of people. And what struck me in the Beetlejuice material was that it was not playing to that at all. It was, especially in the Washington, D.C. version.
I have heard.
But it was skewing very dark, very twisted, very, you know, very genuinely funny. And it made sense later when I met Brightman because, like, it's so tailored to him. And he is one of the most naturally funny human beings I have ever encountered in my life. So yeah, I listened at the door to see how people were delivering it all because, well, I was like, I just want to know if I'm crazy, if I'm going to go in there and just tank it. And, everyone else was delivering it fairly traditionally, beautifully. And I just went in and was sort of very abrasive and foolish, and it worked. And I got called back. And they gave me, you know, because I was going in for the ensemble and for understudy roles. And so then I was reasonably confident in my Beetlejuice, but then they started handing me like Adam Maitland, Charles Dietz, Otho, Maxie Dean. And I had a good handle on most of them. And Otho changed a lot between not just the workshop and DC, but between DC and New York. And I thought, well, I need to make at least one choice that could cost me this job. So I did it with Otho. I was like, I'm going to do basically like James Mason meets the Mooninites from Aqua Teen, but like really queer.
As it always should be.
And it worked out. It got laughs. I was very grateful for that. And then we had a final round of callbacks. And, you know, I arrived and the hallway was full of the most astonishingly pornographically beautiful people I've ever seen in my life. Just like stunning human beings. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm not booking this at all. And then I saw a bunch of like, you know, character guys sitting in the corner. And I was like, ah, yes.
One of us.
This is my corner. And I did fine in the singing, I did fine in the acting, and I totally shit the bed in the tap. The tap was a disaster. I'm not a tap dancer. And I thought, well, that's that. And then a few weeks later, I was told that I was on a very strong hold for the show. And I thought, well, that's that. I'm definitely not booking it. And then I got the call that I was doing it. And we did. DC was the most fun. DC was so much fun. And I understand why it had to change. Like, I do. But I miss a lot of the more chaotic, horrifying stuff. For those of you who don't know, DC was so much filthier and so much more violent. Maxie Dean died in DC.
Really?
Yeah. Beetlejuice, instead of summoning up the big puppet at the end of Act 1, Beetlejuice conjured basically a bunch of murder clowns out of the floorboards who dragged Maxie Dean down into the ground and like buzzsawed his limbs off.
Oh my goodness.
So like Maxine Dean was left holding like a bloody stump of Maxie's arm, before she runs off stage screaming. And Beetlejuice, instead of let's all get naked in the whole being dead thing to it, was show me your penis. It was just really, really show me your penis. Worth a try. And there was also the pig dick. There was a big old cock on the pig.
No.
Yeah, the pig had a gigantic. Hold on, my light is acting strange. There we go. The pig had a gigantic cock.
So not kosher.
Not kosher at all, just waggling around. And Leslie Kritzer, who is a comedy demon, made sure most nights that it like flopped into her mouth as she was fighting off the pig. She was like, oh! And also the Girl Scout almost definitely died in DC.
That makes sense.
Well, because she collapsed with a heart attack in the middle of the song and her body was just on stage for most of Beautiful Sound. And then at the end, she jumps up and goes, I'm alive! My heart's stronger than I ever imagined! And Beetlejuice just goes, go get those cookies, and hands out knives to all the clones. And then they finish that Beautiful Sound. And it was like, then later in the show, the clones come back eating the cookies and laughing. The implication being they absolutely stabbed up the Girl Scout.
Such a different storyline and plot line. I love this.
So different. And in DC, of course, you did not have Miss Argentina. In DC, the Netherworld was, they got welcomed immediately by Juno.
Wow.
Who back then was called Mrs. Shoggoth, which is sort of a Lovecraft reference. Oh. But it was changed to Juno for New York because Juno was the character that people know. But basically, she welcomed all the characters to the Netherworld and gave them a brief orientation performance by a dead boy band called Boy Inferno, who had died in a plane crash and who were like covered in horrible burns and did this full-on 90s boy band song called Everything Is Meh, which was all about how in the Netherworld everything's like fine. It's
I
like,
need
whatever.
to see this. What?
I would never in a million years suggest searching for a bootleg. In a million years.
It could never happen.
If it fell in your lap, watch it, because that number is fucking absolute chaos. But so we did the show down there, and it was like a summer camp experience. It was the most fun. And none of the ensemble had contracts for New York. Wow. We knew that we were going to be opening at the Winter Garden, but we didn't know if we had the show. And so I spent the winter basically not knowing if I had a job. I got called back in to audition again for it. And by the way, I must say, the reason that I was in there at all is Alex Timbers. Because he called me, he saw me for a bunch of shows over the years, like Peter and the Starcatcher, back when Roger Rees was alive, rest his soul. So I got to audition for Timbers and Roger Rees. He brought me in for an ensemble part in Rocky. I didn't get that. He brought me in for a role in, I think it was called Up Here, which was a show he did out in La Jolla, and I didn't book that. And the mistake, I think, that a lot of actors make is if a director keeps calling me in and doesn't cast me, he must not like me. And it's like, no, he keeps calling you in.
Right.
Keep going in. And Timbers is a genius.
You hear that a lot, actually, about how maybe you weren't right for this role, but they really like you, and they're just trying to figure out what piece of the puzzle you fit in. So until that works, it feels meh and blah. But if you just keep putting in the time and the effort, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
But this is the thing. Nothing's going to happen. It's more like you just got to work and make stuff, and maybe something happens. Fair. You know, I'm not a believer in destiny or, I mean, it's all just chaos and chance. And I'm very lucky. Things came along at the right time. But so I wound up waiting until January before I knew that I was in the show.
Wow.
And a lot of the other ensemble had already gotten the call, but I found out later that the reason that it took so long was because the coverage for understudies was very different. And so they brought in like way more coverage, and they needed to sort out who was doing what. And Timbers, bless him, is just one of the kindest people I've ever met. And he himself just like came up to me while we were on break and was like, hey, just so you know, here's why it took so long for you to find out. We're really sorry about it. And he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that at all. He's just one of the warmest, most generous souls I've encountered in theater.
Wow. That's amazing. It's always nice to hear those stories.
It's very rare that someone is as visionary as he is and as considerate and sweet.
Yay.
So, yeah.
That is great. Yes.
Yeah.
When I see understudies and swings, I just like, it blows my mind that you can have all of these different characters in your brain ready to go at a moment's notice. Like sometimes you find out that week, that day.
20 minutes before.
Intermission.
Maxie Dean, I found out 20 minutes before the show when I went on for him.
What goes through your mind?
Shit! Well, you know, your heart goes, Thwah! And then you're like, okay, what do I need to know? Like in terms of tracking what changes for me, because I'm doing my full ensemble track plus this role. Yeah, you don't like, because you know, Danny Rutigliano, and Kelvin Moonlow, who did Otho, they were both also part of the ensemble for a lot of that first act.
Right.
You know, and second. So, you know, I had to just be like, okay, I come off stage after this number, then I have to go change my makeup, change my costume, get the wig on, come back down for this, and then I have to do this intermission. It's just like Jenga, you know, you sort of have to reorganize it in your head. And I found out 20 minutes before the show, and I found Brooke, our dance captain, who is astounding. I don't have a bad word to say about anybody involved in this show.
Yay!
You are going to get absolutely zero dish.
Perfect.
There's no tea to spill. It's just an extraordinary bunch of people. But Brooke took me through really quickly, because I'd only rehearsed Maxie Dean once. And she took me through the dance for Deo, and I was like, okay, great. And it all worked out.
What?
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
It's totally insane. But yeah, we were split tracking too. So like, you know, I was doing my track, and then in the middle, Danny, and then me for the rest of the show. And then I think it was Eric Johnson who did the sort of fill-in bits on Danny's track. And then like for me, I think he was one of the lawyers while I was Maxie Dean.
Whew,
but also I'd never understudied for anything in my life. This was my first time doing it. And I'm understudying, you know, 5 roles, including 2 leads, you know. And so that was really scary. That was a lot of hard work. That was genuinely like unnerving.
That video you posted of you as Beetlejuice. Thank you.
Oh, you got it.
That's amazing. So
my put in rehearsal for like a couple weeks before we shut down because of COVID. But you know, Rachel Botter, one of our stage manager, was like, just so you know, like you're going on. You're gonna go on. Like you're gonna be put on the schedule because now I know that you can do this. And I was like, okay. So had COVID not happened, I would have gone on for Beach, and it would have been a beautiful challenge.
That beautiful sound would have been music to our ears.
Yeah.
So, all right, I feel like there are a few ways I want to go with this, but first, it's really cool that every Beetlejuice is unique. That it's not just here's Alex Brightman, now be Alex Brightman.
They didn't want that. They did not want it. That's why you get Will Blum being astounding in the role and nothing like him.
Yes. So when you're going through, I mean, because you're already understudying and ensemble of these other characters, then you're acting with Alex on a daily basis, but you're also crafting your own Beetlejuice. What's that process like for you?
The process is, it's two parts. One is, what does he want in every scene? And just like try and be true to that. Because you can dress it up with a whole bunch of mannerisms, but it's not going to give it clarity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you have to sort of find a clear trajectory. And then the other thing is, what's some shit I can do that makes me laugh?
Yes.
Because, I mean, that's, weirdly enough, that's the salient thing. Not what Brightman did with the role, which was iconic, but the fact that I think so much of it was just engineered from a desire to amuse himself.
And you can tell, like, I mean, obviously it's acting, yes, but also there's joy in it. There's like
so much joy. A genuine love of performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when practicing or doing the put-in, are there moments that are especially scary, like the famous line?
Oh, well, gosh. Wait, which famous? You can't say the famous line. Is which one? Is It's Showtime? It's Showtime is fine. That was the one scene I totally fucked up in in my put-in. I fucked up two little technical cues in there. And I was like, well, it's halfway through and I've shit the bed. But we recovered and we got through it, and then I knew what I had to do. But no, if there's anything scary, I'd actually say it's the big dance number and Beautiful Sound, because there's so many bodies on stage. And I am not a person of modest dimensions. I'm a large, lanky man, and Alex is not as tall as me. And so, like, I really had to modulate my movement so as not to whack into anybody, you know, because it is being on stage during that Beautiful Sound. I know it looks crazy out there. It looks 20 times crazier on stage in the middle of it. And you're like, I have to go upstage of that guy and not downstage of her, or I'm going to get fucking clobbered. And I need to get out of this way because Mateo's about to jump off the table. You know, it is terrifying.
There's so much athleticism in just that number alone.
Yeah, well, that number is the showpiece dance wise. That's the one where like they pulled out all the stops. You know,
the Newsies dance break.
Precisely.
I love a Newsies dance break. It
Who
is
Among Us, etc.
I'm looking at I feel like I'm just like this old human who's like, what? Hello. Amanda says understudies and swings are 100% superheroes, and I agree.
Oh man. Oh, it is nice to find out that people appreciate the stuff we do. You know, I mean, and I was working with a couple of superstars in there. You know, I mean, Will, Sean Montgomery, Natalie Ellis, you know, God, I mean, Kim Sava was just a force, you know, and our swings like Zach and Eric. I mean, these were just, and I mean, Brooke wound up swinging in for a few shows.
Wow.
You know, I mean, just incredible stuff. I mean, I have so much respect for it. And I honestly always felt like an intruder. I felt like I didn't belong because like I'm, as I say, like a scuzzy downtown art boy. And everyone else is so disciplined and so experienced and so storied. And so the bar was very high, and I felt a genuine responsibility. I was like, don't let these people down, because they are putting in the hours, and you got to put them in too, and you've got to be there for them the way they are for you. It's all a fucking trust fall, you know?
Right. Yeah, it is. And it is such a downtown show on Broadway.
It really, I mean, the DC version, the DC version was a $20 million downtown show. Wow. The Broadway version was definitely like PG-13, but still edgier than most Broadway 100%.
I mean, the fact that, and it's funny because I was just re-listening to my interview with Alex Brightman because the episode on bwaySHO, the podcast, dropped today. And we were talking about how creepy old guy being in the show, like, you wouldn't necessarily think that that would be allowed, but I appreciate the honesty and the self-reflection of, no, we see what we're doing. It's not cool. We're going to call it out, and now we can continue on with the show. That's
correct. You know, down in DC, it was trickier because the show had been so filthy up till then that it was harder, I think, for people to see the irony of the number.
I see.
Because the show had been really rejoicing in filth up until that point. And
then they're like, oh, but filth is bad. And you're like, what? That's not fair.
Yeah, but you know, but I understand. Like, it really, context matters so much. You know, tone and context. And so a creepy old guy in DC, I think a lot of people were like, this is an ode to pedophilia. And it I mean, we got a lot of nasty words down there about that. And in New York, it made more sense because it was like, Lydia Dietz has a scheme. She's going to carry off that scheme, and she's going to scam the biggest scam artist in the universe.
Yes.
And so it was more delineated. The irony of all of it was clearer, you know. And I think, like, Eddie Perfect said it very well. Oh God, Eddie, what a lord. And by the way, we talked about how funny the show is. Anthony King and Scott Brown are princes among men.
Brilliant.
And also, when it became clear that Beetlejuice was going to be canonically queer, I mean, Scott was really, he got a phone call from I can't remember what gay magazine it was, but they were like, we're hearing rumbles. This was during previews that Beetlejuice is queer in your show. And Scott's response was, Beetlejuice respects no binaries, not even life and death. So, yes. But Eddie talked about creepy old guy, and he said the thing was, what happens when you give a creepy old guy exactly what he wants? You know? And once you sort of frame it like that, with Lydia Dietz absolutely at the steering wheel for all of this, and the show not being, I think, in some senses, completely driven by Beetlejuice. Lydia's emotional life was clearer by the time we got to New York. And they were much more co-leads by the time New York happened, which was just beautiful writing. It was great in DC. It was pristine in New York. And it just all made sense. And it worked. And I mean, it's a real tightrope walk. Like, how is this going to play?
Right. Well, yeah, it definitely.
Anyway, you were saying.
No, it did. The whole show just felt like this piece was meant to be there, and like, this guy knows what I'm talking about.
Yep. Yep. Goddamn, I love that joke.
Right? It's so funny because even though you know it's happening, and then it happens again and again, it's so funny.
It's better because you know it's coming. It's the whole Hitchcock thing of, like, I think the principles of suspense and comedy are very similar. Like, you know that there's a bomb under the table. Like, when's it going to go off? You can't just say it twice. There's got to be a third one to close the circle.
It always has to be Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
That's right.
Beetlejuice!
Yep. Exactly.
Haley saying, non-binary King Beetlejuice.
We do stand and be king.
Yes, indeed. So this feels like a great opportunity to tell y'all, start thinking of your questions, like write them down, get them in your noggin, and maybe we can get a special performance.
Maybe. Now or later?
Now if it works for you.
Let's do it. So I've always been a fairly enormous dweeb, especially for Rocky Horror. So I'm just gonna really quickly sing. My voice is a little out of practice, so this might be terrible. Hold on, let's see here. This one, Sweet Transvestite. Let's give it a shot. All right. How'd you do? I see you've met my faithful handyman. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were the handyman. Don't get stronger by the way I look. Don't judge a book by its cover. I'm not much of a man by the light of day, but by night I'm one hell of a lover. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Let me show you around, maybe play your sound. You look like you're both pretty groovy. Then if you want something visual that's not too abysmal, we could take in an old Steve Reeves movie. I'm glad we caught you at home. Could we use your phone? We're both in a bit of a hurry. Right. We'll just stay where we are, then go back to the car. We don't want to be any worry. Well, you got caught with a flat whale. How about that? Well, babies, don't you panic. By the light of the night, it'll all seem alright. I'll get you a satanic mechanic. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Why don't you stay for the night? Or maybe a bite? I could show you my favorite obsession. You see, I've been making a man with blonde hair and a tan, and he's good for relieving my tension. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. So, come up to the lab and see what's on the slab. I see you shiver with anticipation. But maybe the rain is really to blame. So I'll remove the cause. But not the symptom!
Yes!
Okay. All right.
Woo!
I have not really sung for a while. That's nice. That was fun. Thank you for letting me. Thank you for letting me be a little shiponi.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Haley saying, "I'm living and I feel that just the same right in my soul."
Oh my. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
And also saying, "Tim Curry would be so proud of this performance."
Please.
So good. Anna Louise saying, Abe as Frankenfurter is everything I didn't know I wanted or needed, but I'm so happy right now.
I would die. I would die. And I'm not the obvious casting for Frankenfurter, but thank you.
But now we've seen it, and now we need it.
But yes, thank you for indulging me.
Thank you. This is why I like to offer the opportunity to sing if it's something that you want to do, but like no pressure. And I love when people choose like a fun, like, maybe I'll do this little ditty.
Oh yeah. I love this. I love that song. I love that score. Actually, if you like Rocky Horror, you should also check out Shock Treatment, which was the non-sequel sequel to Rocky Horror, which came out in the early 80s. Nice. And it was made by the exact same creative team, and it bombed spectacularly. And it's about Brad and Janet coming back to Denton, and the town has been transformed into a giant TV station, and like everyone just lives in the TV station, and it actually eerily predicted reality television. I also think Shock Treatment has a better score than Rocky Horror. I think Shock Treatment has better songs.
Wow, you heard it here first.
But yes, anyway, Shock Treatment.
Shock Treatment.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I love Rocky Horror. I went to the University of Maryland, go Terps. And
I assume that's short for turpentines. I don't know anything about sports, but go on.
Let's stick with that. And
yes. The Maryland Turpentines. Everyone's favorite sports ball team.
Sports ball. I feel like
it's going to be a grand dunk. Anyway, so you went to University of Maryland.
Now I'm just picturing the athletes running across the stage in the football netherworld scene. Good times. Good times.
Hell yeah.
So at Maryland, they would have the, Halloween showing of Rocky Horror, and we would all get dressed up. And then I wanted to do that in New York, and I know that one of my friends was actually in a production there. Yeah. And now that we can't go out anywhere, I'm thinking can we all just have this virtual Rocky Horror Halloween extravaganza?
That sounds like the most fun. I love that. I love it.
Let's 100%. Make it happen. Mm-hmm.
Let's do a thing. Yes. I'd love to help. I'd love to be a part of it.
I love. So happy right now. Excellent. Excellent. So I have a few more questions, and I want to be conscious of your time. So I'm just going to poo.
There's a pandemic. I have nothing but time. It's not an insult when I say I have nothing better to do. It's just facts.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear that.
Okay, good.
So did you have, or do you have a favorite moment in the show, whether you're in it, whether you understudy that part, whether you're watching it from the side, any and all of those?
The selfish favorite moment was when I got to go on for Otho. Because there was one line reading that was the absolute most ridiculous. Why did they let me do it after seeing it in rehearsal? And it was when I got to say, and here's the thing, being on a Broadway stage is already amazing. Being on a Broadway stage and getting to go on for Otho, which is a joy, and actually get laughs is give me a break. But I got to say the line, just outside the walls of this house, nestled in the hatchback of my Toyota Prius. I said it like it was basically an Italian, artisanal car. It was such a ridiculous read. And when I got the laugh for that, I was like, yes. So there was that.
I love that option.
Yeah. But then there's just honestly every night right before going out into the funeral, right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Being there and feeling the overture just rumble up through your guts, and seeing the dry ice coming out and the moon rising and all that blue light. and knowing that there were like over 1,000 people out there who were just ready to experience this. You never get jaded. It just, I mean, if you do get jaded, you should quit. You just shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
If you can't be excited about that, give me a break. It is a privilege, and it's one that I never took for granted. So every night right before going out, because at the beginning of the show, my entrance is part of a really complex staging bit that seems very simple, but is not. And getting to go on and having that little nervous tingle right before every night, that was really special. Oh, and also just like getting to share little moments with Alex Brightman and Gil Bailey off on stage right before the show, you know, because Gil and Alex they're dear friends and very funny, and we just kind of live to crack each other up.
Are there any particular moments that you feel comfortable sharing that like spring to mind as like fun backstage, or anything that you would do every night as like a tradition? I mean, for me, I was just very, very conscientious. You know, although, you know, Presley, before she was sort of on as, you know, for a longer term as Lydia, Presley and I, at the end of, it was at the end of Dead Mom. Presley and I would basically offstage just do a little choreographed dance at the end of Dead Mom. It was just like every night the same thing. You know, it was really, really silly. But yeah, that was every night. I think I missed that only either A, when I was like injured, or B, when, you know, I was injured. The only reason to miss that.
Yeah, honestly, it was a joy.
Yeah. There are so many moments that just seem like so much fun from all the social media posts, and it is so special to be able to see this connection between the audience and the cast, and then within all of the cast that you don't always get to see, right? Sometimes it's like, those are the leads and those are the ensemble members and this, and that does not feel like Beetlejuice. We
were all pretty tight-knit, you know? Yeah, like Brightman would come up and visit the ensemble dressing room, and like, you know, other people would drop in. Rob McClure would come in with like some gospel that he really liked sometimes. Yeah, no, it was just everybody really liked each other. And I think that's part of that comes across on stage.
Yeah.
That affection that everybody felt. And I mean, I am so lucky that my first Broadway show was this, because first of all, it's 1 billion to 1 shot you're going to be on Broadway anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that. And then there's the fact that like it was a show that I loved with material I thought was brilliant and with people who were kind.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, I was so self-conscious at first because I felt like the odd man out. But everyone just comes up to you on day one and is like, "Hi, I'm Tony nominee such and such," you know? And you're like, right, you're at the pinnacle of your field. I just got done with a titty show down in the East Village.
Isn't that how all Broadway goes?
I have to assume. That's how all Broadway goes.
Yeah, amazing. Also, this is so funny. I'm just seeing people in the comments like asking each other questions like, how many times have you seen it? 15 times. Wow.
Because it's a community. We're so lucky. How did this happen? How did people find it? How did they find it the way they did? My God. I mean, what luck. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, when the reviews came out in New York, I was like, okay, we've probably got a couple months and then we're packing up shop, if that. Yeah. But it stayed the course, and it's because people found something in it.
You know, I feel a lot like, and I never, unfortunately, got to see SpongeBob in person, but so grateful that they filmed it because I got to see it. But I have kind of similar thoughts on that. It didn't need to be that good. You already had the audience that love SpongeBob, that love Beetlejuice,
Right.
and put in the extra effort in both of these shows that got the staying power and the people who were so passionate that then they told their friends and they posted about it, and then it just kind of grew and kind of took on a life of its own after the original like life of it. And I see those kind of both happening like right now.
It's the stuff that happens after the advertising.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, but that's exactly it. I always appreciate when art, commercial art, popular art, has the extra effort in it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where it's not just like, you fucking idiots are gonna love this. It's that thing you like.
Yeah.
You know? Which
Exactly.
and there can be a contempt, I think, in like a reboot or a, you know, or an adaptation where it's just like, this is the intellectual property. You like it, just shut the fuck up and come see it.
Give us your money.
Exactly. Literally, yes.
Right. Yeah. It's
Don't get me wrong. We were very grateful for the money.
Take the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are kind of those two different versions of new art and revivals on Broadway that either you love it or you don't, and they're for two different audiences, and there's maybe not one is right or wrong, but like Kiss Me Kate, when it came back, was very like traditional Kiss Me Kate, and then Oklahoma was like, whoa, Oklahoma.
Yeah. I think a lot of my friends referred to it as the Oklahoma that fucks. And like, accurate.
Yes. Yeah. And with chili and cornbread.
I mean, I'm a big fan of if you're going to revive something, I actually think, especially if it's an established work of art, it's really valuable to just like do something outrageously, you know, different with it.
Yeah.
I mean, some people really do want the thing that they like delivered how they like it. Right. And I actually think there's a lot of value in that. Like, I saw Kevin Kline in Present Laughter, and it was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. The show was pristine. It was not revisionist. It was a perfectly turned production. And there's real value in that because, you know, sometimes you don't even get that. Mm-hmm. So to see a bunch of like awesome professionals just put on a pristine version of a classic is very valuable. But then I do think that there are things, I know a lot of people, I didn't see West Side Story, the revival.
Me neither.
But one thing I appreciated was, yeah, they're going to do something really different with it. Right. Like I don't know anything about it, about what they did. I just know that like apparently Ivo van Hove was really trying something different. And I just thought, yeah, fuck it. If you're a theater artist and someone's willing to throw a few $1,000,000 at your completely revisionist take on a totally established text, do it. Mm-hmm. Like, show me something new about the piece. You know? Let me fall in love with it from another entry point.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah. Or like John Doyle's revivals of like Sondheim, you know, stuff that really cracks it open.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I was very sad I didn't get to see Company yet, and I'm just like knocking on wood that I'll get to.
Hey man, we've all got our fingers crossed.
It's very true. And I feel like I feel like I wouldn't be honoring a feeling from when it was happening with the West Side Story, all the controversy that was surrounding that. And so that's all very valid.
Totally.
So if anyone's watching and they're like, why didn't SHO bring that up? I'm bringing it up.
No, I mean, I think there's absolutely no excuse for non-consensually sharing a performer's nudes.
Yes.
Anyone's. I think... No, that was disconnected entirely from the directorial vision of the show. There is absolutely no excuse for that. It's disgusting behavior. It's violating and it's immoral and it's the kind of thing that has to stop. Like, to be clear.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. And it is such a shame because I feel like all of these actors getting their Broadway debuts and these moments to shine were overshadowed by this thing. And I wish that just never happened, that they didn't, that they respected one another
That gets at the heart of something I think very, very interesting. And I might talk myself into a grave with this one, but like, there are artists who have done terrible things and have been correctly canceled. Or actually most of them haven't, because, Louis C.K. is out there doing a stand-up tour. Woody Allen's still got funding for his movies, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I can't really watch their stuff anymore.
No.
But what people forget is that there are so many artists. Kevin Spacey makes movies hard to watch now, but in the making of a film, you've got all these other actors, you've got all these other craftspeople.
Right. And
the person who committed that violating act has really taken a giant shit all over the art and life of their collaborators. Like, that's the secondary concern. The primary concern is that this person did something unforgivable and dreadful.
Yeah.
And then you've got the fact that their terrible acts are now tainting the efforts and experience of a bunch of like conscientious, good, hardworking artists. And I think that is, on a secondary level, an enormous shame.
Very well said. And I think that's so true. It's like, you can hold those two things as, that was awful, and I don't want to ever see anything with you or directed by you again. But also, this person was brilliant and they deserve to be celebrated, and they did nothing wrong.
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm not a person who thinks you can fully separate the artist from the art.
Right.
Because art comes from artists. I mean, I loved watching Louis C.K. But then when you find out about what he did, you look back at the art and you're like, man, you were just confessing in plain sight. And now all this stuff that was so funny and trenchant is ruined. Because now I know that you were like violating trust and boundaries, and so I don't actually believe, or Roman Polanski, I don't believe you can fully separate the art from the artist. And I think anyone who says that you can is kind of selling you something. Or telling you to not be such a fucking snowflake or whatever. And it's like, man, I'm sorry that it's such a goddamn crime to have feelings now, but
you've just encapsulated so many of my feelings, which is like, oh yeah, like, I would like to see that, but I heard it stars blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah did this, and so I don't want to see it. And then when people say to me, like, oh, but, it's such a great performance, and I'm like, I can't separate
that person did it. Like,
no, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, actually. That's just like, that's who I am. And there are 50 million other things I could be watching, listening to, reading, seeing live. I'm going to actively choose to spend my time and money on good people.
There's so much content. It's not like if you don't see that thing, you're at a loss. But no, it's one of the reasons that I genuinely think a broader industry reckoning for bad behavior is very important. Yes. And I feel like since we're already on this ball movement, I always like to just say flat out, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black trans lives matter.
Black trans lives matter.
Yes.
It's I really hope that
it shouldn't be a controversial statement, and it's silly that it is.
Thank you. Yes, it is. Whenever I have to click on like a YouTube forum or something, like, do you have any controversial content? And I'll be like, okay, like cursing here, and then I'll be like, political things, whatever. But I always want to put in like a side note, like, having Black Lives Matter conversations should not be political or controversial, because they are statements of fact.
Well, this is the best explanation I heard of it. Was that when people are saying Black Lives Matter, they're not saying other lives don't. They're saying, just to remind you, Black Lives Matter as well. And currently, socially, we don't act as though they do.
Yes.
And I think that was the clearest explanation of it that I heard. So when someone says all lives matter, it's like, yes, but if you thought all lives mattered, you wouldn't have a problem saying Black Lives Matter.
Preach.
Like, anyway, a lily white, Brooklyn Jew here, so.
I'm a New York Jew as well, so I like my bagels and schmear.
That's correct.
But this is I just really hope that when Broadway does come back, because it's coming back, and I just need to say that theater's coming back.
It's going to come back. There's no future without theater.
100%. It needs to change. We need to have more Black and diverse people in all senses of the word diverse.
Indigenous people and people of every color, and also people of every gender.
Yes.
And every sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I just
and I come from a position of relative privilege here, because I'm white and I can pass for straight, even though I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't take the brunt. I get some anti-Semitic hatred on Twitter now and again, which is fun. But
don't we all?
Yeah, it's great. I love it. But we're not taking the brunt of the hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think
I've been saying a lot recently that if you're Jewish and you're not speaking up, then you missed the point. You missed your growing up, you missed your heritage, because if we are being taught our whole lives about the Holocaust and that people didn't step up, or that some people did and that's why those survived, that's why you need to speak up, because
you can't be a collaborator. You cannot. No. If you're a Jew and a collaborator, you've learned nothing.
Mm-hmm. It's just, yeah.
Any old who. Glad we could steer this into some really mega fun territory. I'm sure that the comment section is popping.
Yes, yeah. No, people appreciate it. I think it's nice to have these conversations that start very fun and have it, and we'll circle back to end it on a nice positive. But it's also if we have a platform and we don't use it, then what's the point of having a platform?
I agree. Absolutely.
And speaking of platforms, one of your characters, if I'm correct, is the census taker. Is that right?
That is correct. I that was a joy. He was added, I think, 3 days before we started doing shows.
That's amazing.
In New York. He wasn't in DC. He was a really late addition for New York.
Well, and so timely right now.
Yes, absolutely. How could we have known?
Who could have guessed it? But yes, please fill out the census and vote and wear a mask.
Please wear a mask. Please socially distance. Please. It would be great if you could act in a way that conveys respect and care for your fellow person.
Yes.
Because the more people act selfish and self-absorbed and say fuck a mask or fuck distancing, the longer it's going to take for art to come back in a more popular sense. Right.
That's exactly true. If we hunker down and do what we need to do and be respectful, then we'll actually be able to see live theater again.
I would love it. I would love to have a job again.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
So are there any nonprofits or charities that you'd specifically like to give a shout out to today?
Well, let's see. I've been doing sorry, I have to pull up this little list.
Excellent.
Forgive me for taking a moment.
I love a list.
Yeah, I've done a lot of giving to sort of mutual aid and to bail funds. I always recommend donate to bail funds.
Mm-hmm.
Go to there's a great list of Black-owned businesses, blackownedbrooklyn.com, which is a great place to put your money. Forgive me, I have it all on my phone. I feel terrible.
This is perfect. I love a good list.
But yes, there's also this was important. This was one that mattered to me. For the Gwirls.
Mm-hmm.
It assists with rent and surgical costs for Black trans people. And let me see. Let me pull up the website here, but it's for the Gworls, GWORLS. Yeah, look that up. For the Gworls Party on Twitter, I believe. But yes, that's the nonprofit that I wanted to really boost.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to add to that because it makes me think of Sis. Sis is doing the TNG project, the Next Generation project, also helping trans, non-binary, Black and brown folk. So
here's the actual Twitter is at 4, the number 4, the Gworls, THEGWORLS. There it is.
Thank you. Yes, that is important, and I will go check them out. I've heard of that group, and now I'm like, ooh, I want to like dive deeper and actually take a look. So thank you. And I hope this wasn't too distracting, but I wanted to show my Beetlejuice necklace here.
I love it.
Yeah, it's from Scenery, who take amazing this is from the Beetlejuice DC run, like from the
God! Oh wow!
Yeah, it's so cool. And I have a Beetlejuice ring that is unfortunately at home in New York and not here in Washington State, where I am currently at.
Oh my God! I hope you're. I mean, I know that everything out there in the Pacific Northwest is currently on fire. I hope you're doing all right.
Yeah, yesterday it was like legitimately hard to breathe. Like the wildfires, the smoke was like everywhere. Luckily today is a lot better, which is why I'm able to like keep the door to the netherworld open over here.
Yes, the portal.
Yes,
you're right.
That's for Slim. It's funny because it's really hot out today, but my adorable dog Slim usually comes in and out and sits on the couch. And I'm sorry that y'all didn't get to see him today, but I love him so much. He's so
yeah.
cute.
My little buddy PJ is currently asleep under the coffee table.
Oh, that's so cute. And I also wanted to show this fun little ditty here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
That's extremely awesome.
Yeah. Custom Broadway, which also there's Custom Broadway and there's Broadway Custom, and both of them are fabulous. Do these amazing this ring is also from them, which is funny. I love to just like promote my friends. It's like why not? And they do some really great work, and it's always really fun to have these like little pieces of Broadway with you, and especially right now having like the necklace and the Beetlejuice coffin, and they're just like little pieces of joy.
Oh wait, let me show you something. I'm gonna take literally 10 seconds off camera.
Yes.
1 second. Say something awesome. 1 second.
La la la, Abe is wonderful and famous. That's what I've got to say today.
Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so opening night of Beetlejuice, we got gifts, and of course the show is produced by Warner Brothers, and this was something, an illustration that we got.
Wow!
Looney Tunes.
So cool.
Looney Tunes Beetlejuice representation. The Maitlands, of course, being Bugs and I think maybe that's Lola Bunny. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, Charles Dietz, Foghorn Leghorn. I mean, it's just really, it's so goddamn cool.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yay. Actually, that makes me think of today is like Beetlejuice Day when the TV series started.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I know.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
And there are people who know the cartoon but don't know the film, which is another sort of interesting fandom sector.
Right. Beetlejuice really just has all of those, like their hand in the little different pots. It's amazing.
It's remarkable.
And we do have a question. I want to make sure to get to it.
I think we might have a couple in there, but go on.
Oh, okay. Yes, I will. You know what? I will wear my glasses. I will ask. Yeah. Leah asks, question for Abe, is all the backing vocals, like in Dead Mom and Home, all live, or are they pre-recorded?
Both. We had pre-recorded tracks that we recorded, and then we augmented them with live singing. There was obviously there's sometimes chorus on stage. There's also a little vocal booth on stage right of the Winter Garden where we would pile in, and it was filthy and awful. But I mean, there were bugs. It was.
Were there Beatles?
There were no Beatles, but there were roaches.
Oh no!
Big ones. There was the occasional big ass roach.
Roach juice just doesn't have the same ring to
Roach
it.
juice is vile. but anyway, okay. So yes, it's a mixture of live pre-recorded and roach juice.
Excellent. If there were a title of the ep, I feel like that would be it. Amanda asks, oh, wait, I just had it. And then, oh, yes, here it is. Amanda asks, hey, but what's one thing you wish you could have taken home from the Beetlejuice set?
God. I mean, from the set, nothing. Because the set is... Oh, actually, you know what? I might have taken some of the tchotchkes from the back wall of the Maitland's attic. Because that was so detailed. Or possibly there was a can of wax in the insulation of the house. Because on the sides of the stage, you could see a sort of cross section of the insulation and the internal sort of structure of the house. And there was like a can of wax in there, and there was a message in a bottle. I might have wanted the message in a bottle with a can of wax. Yes.
That is a fun one.
Yeah.
Eleanor asks, I love that everyone starts it, hey, Abe, or hi, Abe. So personal. I love it.
That's my name!
You figured it out.
Yeah.
Have you had any mishaps on stage?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Like, fucking catastrophe. Walking disaster. The biggest was... Okay, so Sean Montgomery frequently went on for Adam Maitland. And when he went on, I had to go on as the ghost double, because there is a scene where you've got like the Maitlands exit, people in sheets cross the bottom of the stage, and then they enter upstage. And so you had to cover the transition, you had ghost doubles who played the Maitlands under sheets. And to do that, you have to take off your wig. And so I took off my wig and I went across the stage. It was the first time. And then got fully dressed up for my entrance as the lawyer in Deo. And it turns out, did not remember to put my wig back on. So there was... Yeah. There was a lawyer in a fucking wig cap with a microphone wire. And it took me weeks to be okay with that. I felt so dreadful. I felt so absolutely dreadful.
That's, I've learned that those are some of my favorite stories because Alex told this story when he was in Wicked, and it's way better coming from him. So like, I highly recommend hearing his.
Oh, I know this one. Oh my God, I know this one. Oh,
it is so funny to hear when something goes wrong or you forget that you're supposed to like close out an act, and you know you run out in your little Bach yarmulke and half of a costume.
Yeah, woof.
Woof indeed.
Woof.
More questions here. Also, okay, I was just looking this up because I always get it confused and I feel like a bad friend. So now I need to like correct myself while we're here. This is Custom Broadway, and Broadway Custom does this amazing job with youth, like a summer camp, and they're awesome. And go check both of them out, Broadway Custom and Custom Broadway. But it was just, you know, they're like the same name flipped, and I tend to flip them. And I would hate for my friend Chelsea to be like, thank you so much for sharing the wrong name. So
Totally. Well done. Good stuff.
Thank you.
All right.
And
what else we got from the Peanut Gallery? What do we got?
Haley St. James, who we've heard from so much, and I appreciate it. Keep it coming.
I'm a straight up fan of Haley St. James. I want to be clear about that, but go on.
There's a good chance we will see Haley on the series. Just you wait.
Okay.
Can you give us an impromptu taste of your Beetlejuice? I'm so sad you never got to go on in the role, and that standby rehearsal footage isn't nearly enough.
I might respectfully demur. It's been like 6 months, and I don't know if I would feel I can, you know what I can say? I can say that right at the beginning, my entire thing was that I'm just really enthusiastic that he's actually he's thrilled to be there with an audience. And, you know, Alex's trick is making it very endearing that he's unseemly and filthy. And so at the beginning behind the newspaper, I was like, holy crap, a ballad already, you know, and such a bold departure from the original source material. Like he was just really, really cartoonishly thrilled about disrupting this funeral.
Yes. I
got to throw in like weird little impersonations here and there. Like I threw in a Johnny Carson at one point. It's an old Scandinavian folk song, you know, but it's not a fully developed thing at all. I mean, like I had what I had, and it could have gone on, and it's been 6 months. So that's what I got.
That was very generous of you to give us what you gave, and so thank you for that.
What else we got?
We've got a lot of astigmatism team members here. Thank you. Very exciting. Yes. I'm screaming in a Trader Joe's, which also feels like my a saying that I would give. I love Trader Joe's.
Screaming in a Trader Joe's is like the hashtag mood of the year, I think.
Yes. That is so true. Anna asks, what's a lead role you'd kill to play? Gender doesn't matter. It's 2020.
Well, I'm probably not going to try and take a role from a woman. Let's be honest.
Fair play.
No, I mean the part I've always wanted to play is Oscar Wilde, and there's so many wonderful plays about Oscar Wilde, so I couldn't begin to say which one. Though Gross Indecency is a very, very good piece of work, and so is Judas Kiss. But you know, Oscar Wilde in a play that either exists or does not yet exist.
Oh.
He was always a really big inspiration to me, Oscar Wilde.
Yes. Excellent. Andy's just saying some of the best performances I've seen in shows are from the understudies and swings. They blow me away all the time. And Anna says, hard same.
Hard same. Yeah, no, I mean, I was, as I say, in awe of the people I was working with.
Yes.
People.
Abe Juice. I like that name.
Abe Juice. I've had a number of names given to me online about my Beetlejuice. There was Abe Juice, there was Beetlefarb, there was Farb Juice, and then there was Twink Juice because I think I looked very, very lean in the video that was put up, and I just remember my immediate reaction was like, I'm a very large man. I am no twink. I am a man of considerable dimensions. Yes.
That's amazing. All right. I feel like this might be all them. I'm just looking.
Okay.
Beetlejuice and SpongeBob are both absolutely joy bombs. Yes, agree.
100%.
I wish I could have seen it. I'm from the UK though. Yes, Leah. That is like the tough part about theater. And I know like a million people always ask like, oh, when can we see Beetlejuice filmed professionally like Hamilton and Newsies? And it's
here's the thing. First of all, Beetlejuice is going to go to London. When live performances start back up, that is one of the big plans. I know that they want to do a London production. Excellent. Second of all, I don't know if Alex talked about the pro shot that doesn't exist. There is.
Where are you going with this?
Well, I remember. Did he talk to you about it?
No.
Okay, well, there was a plan. There is no existing pro shot. Doesn't exist. But there was a plan. And my hope is, especially now that Diana is doing their pro shot, I would be really, really psyched if Beetlejuice found a way.
Oh.
But the plan that they had was very cool, and it was very distinctive and very Beetlejuice. I can give away no more, but I will merely say that if it happens, it's going to be a very, very special thing. But we're probably months away from even talking about it.
That just sparked this joy of even just the idea that it could happen. I think is something right now, like it's not even like I don't need a certainty. I just need hope that there are things that are maybe in the works, and that there are things that that just because it didn't happen doesn't mean it can't happen, and doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Because
listen, that's the story. That's honestly the story of my experience with Beetlejuice. Is like none of this should have happened. We shouldn't have gotten as far as we did. We got murdered in DC. The show got really heavily overhauled for New York. There was bad press from the start. Like there were gossip columns that were talking shit about the show. And then, then we started off with not so great reviews and grosses that maybe weren't where they should have been. And we shouldn't have lasted that long. But then the Tonys happened, and then the album dropped, and then TikTok happened. And it was just a succession of remarkable coincidences. And all of it was driven by the loving creation of the show and the fact that there were people who found a home at it and who fell as much in love with the material as we did. I want to be so clear. I would have been the luckiest person alive if my Beetlejuice experience had ended in DC, if I hadn't gotten the Broadway contract. I'd still be the luckiest guy I know. The fact that I got to do all this, even though we shut down, even though who knows when live theater is coming back, I am so, so lucky. I'm lucky to have all of these experiences. I'm lucky to be here talking about it. I'm lucky that people give a shit.
Yeah.
And it's been unforgettable.
That's so lovely to hear. And I feel like I'm getting very sentimental right now, because it's all we can do is try our best and try to make people happy and bring joy to the world. And I just an unexpected joy of what I do is seeing all the comments on the YouTube, pages. And the first video of mine that ever exploded in really any major sense was the Beetlejuice performance at Broadway and Bryant Park, which is so amazing because I grew up on Broadway and Bryant Park. That was
that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's so full circle that would be the thing that people would see. And I went there with my professional gear and I was like, hey, I'm press. I didn't have a contact to email ahead of time. Someone else vouched for me. I started filming, and then I got invited to cover the rest of the series.
Oh, wow. Oh my God. That is just so cool.
Yeah. And just the comments are like, oh, thank you for filming this. I wasn't able to go, or, oh, I want all the Beetlejuice content I can get. And then also filming the Broadway Under the Stars, which then had Will and Presley, and having the Broadway, the Barnes and Noble performance. There are so many. And then the Thanksgiving Day performance. There were so many cool.
Thanksgiving. Oh, that was something. One of my favorite things about that was the nacho cheese dripping on Danny Rutigliano, which was not planned at all, but which looked so perfect it could have been CGI.
It was so good. It was so good. And it was so cool to be there at the rehearsal process and seeing the staging and what they do live, and what they're okay, actually we need the skulls over here, and maybe take one step to the left, and just because I come from TV, I was an on-air reporter for 2 years.
Oh, that I didn't know. That's amazing.
Yes. Fun facts.
that rules.
Yeah, it's just it's cool to see the process. And I feel like Beetlejuice is one of those shows that I've gotten to see the process that I never expected, and I get to share that with other people, and that's just constant joy.
Yeah. Same. That's amazing.
Yay.
That's incredible.
So on that note, are there any final words you'd like to share with your fans, and where can everyone find you on social media?
I don't know if I have fans. I think I've said it. I said it on Twitter. I think I'm probably the least famous person you've interviewed, and I feel extremely flattered that anyone takes an interest, because I'm just some jagoff. But I mean, my Twitter is Abe Goldfarb, ABEGOLDFARB. I never use my Instagram, but it's Abraham Goldfarb. I directed a spooky romantic queer horror movie that's on Prime Video. It's called The Horror at Gallery K. It is decidedly uncommercial. It is a black and white queer romantic horror story. So please look up The Horror at Gallery K, and if you enjoy it, review us on Amazon or IMDb. It's a film that I'm very passionate about, and that stars my partner and several of our friends. And it was, if you want to see a really pure expression of me, I think that's where you can go. That's the social media and stuff that's available. Gosh, final words. I'm just really grateful, and I really appreciate you calling on me to interview me, and also waiting a week to do it after I hurt my back. And I really appreciate everybody who's tuned in and who's asked questions, and who's been so nice. Like, I mean, you're all wonderful. I'm just really lucky, and I don't know if I can. All I can say is things are bleak right now. Things are really hard, and a lot of people are struggling. There is a path forward out of this, and it starts with kindness. And you can be angry, and that's important to be angry, because anger does get shit done.
Yeah.
But just remember what you're angry about. If you're going to agitate for kindness, agitate for better and fairer treatment of people. And that's what gets us out of this. That's what moves us forward and gets us to a place where we can put on our shows and talk and see each other and touch each other and meet each other and live again together the way that we're supposed to, because we're a society. We're not just people sitting in rooms, and it's real easy to forget that.
That is, that hit me right here in the heart. I am so grateful for you and all these fans that really have built this community, that it's beyond a fandom, and I've made so many true friends that I chat with. It's amazing.
Oh man, I love that. I've loved doing I do little Ask Me Anythings on Twitter where people send in questions, and I adore it. It's, it's just nice to reach out and see that there are people out there.
Yes, indeed. I feel all of that. Haley says, I'm watching that tonight. I think me too. I'm really excited about that. I saw it on your, IMDb page, and I was like, ooh, I'm intrigued by this. And
it's a weird one.
I love that.
It's very talky. It's very gay.
Yes. That's perfect. Those are right up my alley. And so Andy says, you are awesome. New fan here. So freaking humble.
Thanks.
Thank
you.
Cool. And Andy and Judy, and they are so amazing. I mean, everyone is amazing, but I have to give them a special shout out because they are two of my Showtreons, which is the bwaySHO Patreon. It's so cool to have people that like support your work, not just like, hey, that's a good job you did, but like, do you know Patreon, like the monthly like squad, like here's a few bucks a month, and then you get some cool whatever. Well, we've like turned it into weekly trivia, and tonight we have trivia, and it's like, never thought during a pandemic that like feeling sad that there was no theater would then turn into this group of amazing humans that are like, wait, trivia is so much fun. We should do weekly trivia. And now we do it every week.
That's what gives me faith. That's what gives me hope. The fact that in the catastrophe, people find each other.
Yes. Exactly. And a 2-second plug. I mentioned earlier about bwaySHO, the podcast. I am so excited. Today was the 3rd episode with Alex Brightman, and it's I never thought I'd have a podcast. I never really thought I'd have a YouTube series, and it's just I'm so grateful to all of the theater fans who have said, like, we want a theater reporter who's also a passionate Broadway fan and have welcomed me into this community. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. And if you ever have like questions or thoughts or feedback, like, please reach out to me. I love chatting with y'all. As I mentioned, I was an on-air reporter, and like I love chatting with new reporters who are kind of like getting into the business. So if you ever have any questions, like, just reach out to me at bwaySHO.
Also, you're just really good at your job, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, on that beautiful note, on that beautiful
note.
I knew it had to end on a Beetlejuice reference. Thank you, Abe. Thank you, everyone watching, and we'll see you at the